The news didn't break through a press release or a carefully managed PGA Tour statement. Instead, it arrived the way most seismic moments do in 2026 through a casually clipped social media video. Rory McIlroy, seated across from Gary Neville, Roy Keane, and Jamie Carragher on the Overlap podcast, dropped a line so calmly that it took a few seconds for its weight to truly register. The man who had once branded LIV Golf players selfish, naive, and morally compromised had just said he would welcome them back to the PGA Tour without punishment. No suspensions, no fines, no symbolic wrist slaps. Just open the gates and let them return. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. Golf Twitter descended into chaos. Player group chats lit up with disbelief, frustration, and quiet relief, depending on which side of the divide you stood on. Tour officials scrambled behind the scenes, suddenly forced to react to a statement that threatened to undercut years of carefully constructed positions. Fans who had spent seasons defending one side or the other began questioning whether the battle lines they'd drawn so confidently were about to dissolve altogether. When Rory McIlroy shifts his stance on something this fundamental, it doesn't just create headlines, it forces the entire sport to reevaluate where it headed. The timing of McIlroy's comments made them even more explosive. Just 2 weeks earlier, Brooks Koepka had stunned the golf world by announcing his exit from LIV Golf. The five-time major champion reportedly had a year left on a contract worth well over $100 million, yet he walked away citing family priorities and a desire to spend more time at home. According to ESPN, Koepka quietly informed the PGA Tour of his intentions before making the news public and has already submitted a formal application for reinstatement. The tour's response was careful and corporate, praising Koepka's accomplishments while reiterating that the PGA Tour remains the most competitive and lucrative environment in the sport. It was a political non-answer, and it left everyone wondering what would actually happen if Koepka tried to come back. That uncertainty is exactly where McIlroy's bombshell landed. Speaking on the Overlap in early January 2026, McIlroy argued that LIV players had already paid their price through damaged reputations, lost opportunities, and years away from the game's traditional competitive ecosystem. If welcoming back players like Bryson DeChambeau or others made the PGA Tour stronger overall, he said he would be in favor of it. At the same time, he acknowledged that not everyone shared his position, and that the final decision would ultimately rest with the collective PGA Tour membership. It was a stunning reversal. This was the same Rory McIlroy who once described Phil Mickelson as naive, selfish, egotistical, and ignorant for joining LIV. Back in 2022, when LIV Golf first emerged as a credible threat, McIlroy didn't simply oppose it, he campaigned against it. He spoke passionately at player meetings, delivered fiery press conferences defending the PGA Tour's history, and openly questioned whether LIV players should even be welcome at major championships. He framed the conflict as a moral struggle, arguing that guaranteed money undermined the competitive grind that defined professional golf. His stance was rigid, uncompromising, and seemingly permanent. So what changed? According to multiple reports, the first factor was LIV Golf's unexpected durability. Early critics, including McIlroy himself, believed the league would collapse under its own weight. They assumed fans wouldn't embrace the format, sponsors would shy away, and the novelty would wear off. Instead, LIV secured broadcast deals, maintained audiences, and most importantly kept paying players exactly what it promised. When something you confidently predict will fail becomes a permanent fixture instead, it forces a recalibration of your entire worldview. The second factor was deeply human. LIV players weren't faceless rivals. They were Ryder Cup teammates, longtime competitors, practice partners, and friends. Professional golf's elite circle is small, and treating half of it as permanent outcasts proved emotionally and professionally unsustainable. McIlroy appears to have realized that holding on to moral outrage indefinitely came at a cost to relationships, to the locker room, and to the sport's overall health. The third and most decisive shift came with Brooks Koepka's departure from LIV. Sky Sports reported that Koepka leaving was a significant blow to the league, particularly as it continues to fight for official world ranking points. McIlroy himself admitted that seeing the best players face each other only 4 or 5 times a year at majors, and the Ryder Cup simply isn't enough anymore. That's not ideology, it's practicality. Fans want regular competition between the sport's biggest names, and the current split delivers the opposite. McIlroy has also been candid about his own growth. In early 2024, he admitted he'd been too judgmental toward players who joined LIV. He acknowledged that not everyone occupies the same financial or career position as he or Tiger Woods, and that when someone offers double the money for the same job, turning it down isn't simple. For someone who built his public identity on unwavering loyalty to the PGA Tour, that admission represented genuine introspection. Koepka's reinstatement request now stands as the test case for everything McIlroy is advocating. While the PGA Tour technically maintains a one-year suspension policy for players who participate in unauthorized events, it remains unclear whether that rule will be enforced strictly, selectively, or quietly softened. McIlroy's argument is that punishment serves no real purpose anymore. LIV players lost reputation, access, camaraderie, and weekly competition penalties that matter far more than a symbolic suspension. Other players appear to be arriving at similar conclusions. Billy Horschel, once a vocal supporter of punishing defectors, recently acknowledged that welcoming elite players back could improve the overall product. That growing consensus suggests momentum toward reconciliation rather than continued division. Bryson DeChambeau's situation adds another layer of uncertainty. While it's confirmed he will play LIV Golf in 2026, he has not committed beyond that season. His reported $120 million contract expires after 2026, and he's publicly criticized the league's need to evolve. At one point, DeChambeau even joked that he could walk away entirely and focus on YouTube golf, where he already commands millions of followers. Combined with Koepka's exit, that uncertainty raises uncomfortable questions about LIV Golf's long-term stability. McIlroy hasn't ignored those questions. In recent podcast appearances, he openly questioned how long LIV can continue burning billions without meaningful returns. Financial reports suggest PIF's investment in LIV could exceed $5 billion, while the league's UK entity alone reportedly lost over $1.1 billion between 2021 and 2024. Even with Saudi backing, those losses aren't sustainable forever. Context matters here. McIlroy isn't speaking from insecurity. His Masters victory in April 2025 completed the career Grand Slam, capped the best season of his life, and cemented his legacy. When you've achieved everything the sport can offer, it's easier to extend an olive branch. He's not defending territory. Anymore, he's evaluating what's best for golf's future. His role as co-founder of TGL alongside Tiger Woods reinforces that perspective. When asked whether Brooks Koepka could be welcomed into TGL, McIlroy didn't hesitate. He called Koepka one of the best players of his generation and said there would always be room for someone like that. That wasn't diplomacy, it was active inclusion. World ranking points remain one of the biggest complications. LIV's decision to shift to 72-hole events in 2026 underscores how desperately it wants legitimacy. McIlroy hasn't been shy about pointing out the irony. If LIV abandons what made it different just to qualify for rankings, what truly separates it from traditional tours besides guaranteed money? Meanwhile, negotiations between the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, and PIF remain stalled. Without a comprehensive framework, players like Koepka are left navigating gray areas with no clear precedent. Fan reactions have been mixed. Some praise McIlroy for maturity and leadership. Others accuse him of hypocrisy or privilege, noting that not every PGA Tour player has a security. And that tension is real. Welcoming back LIV players could threaten the livelihoods of fringe tour members. What makes this moment historic isn't just McIlroy changing his mind. It's that the loudest defender of the PGA Tour's traditional model has publicly acknowledged that the Civil War needs to end. That shift changes the entire conversation from if LIV players should return to how and when. Whether this leads to genuine reconciliation or merely softer edges around a divided system remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, the conversation has fundamentally changed. And in a sport defined by tradition, that alone signals that professional golf may finally be inching toward its next era.